I'm not sure if anybody knows this, but I do like collecting physical games. But here lately, I've been getting more and more black-pilled about the whole future of physical gaming and just kind of where the industry is going today. So I kind of wanted to just share my thoughts on recent develops in the video gaming space that I think affects me personally. Now, I've been on a bit of a hiatus here lately, so I've been kind of in my own echo chamber, and I'm just curious how the community's feeling. I got a few people to kind of respond to some of my questions on our Discord, a link in the description. I'm pretty clueless on what the general sentiment is on essentially the future of physical gaming being in jeopardy. Now, I think this doesn't really come as a surprise, but with the recent Xbox leaks kind of just showing where at least Xbox is headed, and to be honest, with 70% of their console sales coming from the Series S, Series S, the all-digital one, I get why Xbox is heading that way, but with PlayStation and a few other companies seemingly forcing the hands of people to want to go more digital, it kind of just begs the question of what the actual heck is going on right now. Now, I am a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, but hey, if it comes out to be true, is it really conspiracy? I really think that gaming publishers have been really wanting people to be going physical for quite some time, and they've been testing the waters, but I love collecting things physically. If I can own it, actually physically own it, resell it if I wanted to, then I have that option. I like having the opportunity to own a product and do what I want with it. If I want to keep it in my library forever, if I want to sell it or trade it, that's my prerogative. But you can't do that with digital. And I think there's just a lot of pros and cons about the whole future, an all digital future that not a lot of people are really thinking about. And with the general sentiment of people here lately being, well, if it doesn't really affect me, I don't really care, I don't really have a horse in this race, I think that's a pretty narrow-minded way to look at where the industry's headed, because I think this affects all of us. If you just play first-person shooters, or if you just play, RTS games, or heck, even if you're an all-digital gamer, the elimination of the physical media, I do think affects everybody, and it's worth talking about. So anyways, there are a lot of cons to owning something digitally or physically. Mostly for me, though, when it comes to outside of just physical space and where to store stuff, physical media has just become the more expensive option, which is odd because I don't really remember that being the case back in the 360 era or the PS3 era. But it's really become the case here lately that owning a game physically is a lot of times more expensive than digitally, which is odd to me. But I do feel that with the less production costs, less headache, it really has just led publishers and game creators to really just want to push the physical media out of the door. There is a clear desire, though, from companies to just bow out of printing physical media for games. It was really odd when EA went with limited run games to do the Dead Space Remake Collector's Edition and whatnot. That was really a big red flag to me, oh man, one of the big fish out there is just going to a third-party publisher to do this because they're just sick of fooling with it. But recently, Atlus going through limited run games to do the Persona 3 and 4 physical editions for Switch, PS4, and I believe Xbox as well through limited run games. I'm not gonna lie, I am not a fan of this. I know limited run games has a lot of fans. Look, I think limited run games takes a lot of heat for a lot of the shady practices a lot of these companies are doing. I don't have any particular horse in this race against limited run games. I have slowed extremely far down from getting them. I will confess, I am not getting Persona 3 and 4 reprints through limited run games. I understand why people would. Some of the greatest JRPGs ever made. However, I do own the originals and whatnot, so I'm not really going to be going down that route. But for me, it really bites because even Atlus is backing out of this, and I believe one of the more recent Yakuza games is going to be an all-digital release, so clearly Sega is bowing out of dealing with physical printing of games. Soul Hackers 2 and I believe Persona 5 Switch port had their collector's editions. I think it might, I don't know if it was exclusively through the Atlus store. I think Soul Hackers 2 was, but I really do hate that Atlus seems to be giving up on doing widespread physical printings of this, because for me personally, Persona 3 and 4 are such massively popular games. There's such a massive innate fan base to these. I mean, Twitter was all aflame lighting up their social media about, hey, is there going to be physical printings for this? Is there going to be physicals? So it's great that they're at least doing that, but it just kind of begs the question of why now? Why are they doing this now, and why is it just through limited run games? Do you mean to tell me that there wouldn't be enough interest to run this through Amazon? Or to run it through PlayAsia? It might be through PlayAsia, I'm not really sure, but I'm just saying, it really just blows that Atlus is going just through limited run games for this, and I think it is a telltale sign that physical media is going to be bowing out, and I just kind of want to raise some red flags here. Really, there has been a lot of staggered releases, like the Metroid Prime remaster. It released immediately digitally, or you could pre-order the physical copy, and there was a big whole ordeal for that. Heck, even keeping it more with the JRPGs from Nintendo, we have the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Collector's Edition. I believe it shipped the physical copy of the game separately from the Collector's Edition of it. Also, I just recently got Gal Guardians Collector's Edition for the Switch. It shipped the physical game standard copy separate from the Collector's Edition. It's just slowly but surely starting to incorporate more and more weird, obnoxious, and frankly frustrating little annoyances for these bigger Collector's Editions, and it just is kind of a sign of the times that, hey, this stuff is going away. And it makes me wonder, how much longer will Nintendo hold out? Because my friends all assume that the PlayStation 6 is going to be an all-digital console. I don't know. Possibly. I do think everybody's going to let Xbox kind of test the waters with this adorably all-digital console leak that they just recently had come out. It's different because obviously an Xbox crowd does not consume media the same way a Nintendo Switch crowd would. I believe the Switch's successor is going to have obviously a physical option as well. And I do even think that Nintendo will probably keep it around for at least another generation after that. But I will be honest, there is a very real possibility that the PlayStation 5 could be the last disc-based console that PlayStation puts out. It's a very here and now thing for society. Everybody wants things digitally. Hey, I have a Steam Deck. I'm going to be completely honest. You can get games dirt cheap and you can play them digitally, but I do want to touch on the very cheap argument for digital. I do think there is a little bit of hubris for everybody who thinks that games are going to still have these mega crazy discounts digitally if physical media goes away entirely. I do think there is going to be a pricing model change when the market changes with physical media going away. Are there going to be as many crazy firehouse sales for digital once physical media is gone and a lot of physical gamers now have to get their games digitally? I wonder, how would this affect sites like Fanatical? Are they going to have any issues, keeping up these get 10 games for $15 or whatever? Because there's just a lot of frustrating things going on with physical games right now. Yes, there's obviously the staggered release where you'll get the digital version of game available months before physical, and yes, that is 100% totally a staged thing. There's no way it's just a printing thing. They could work this out, guys. Come on, let's not completely just take this without acknowledging the fact that they know some people are going to buy a game twice, wants to play it digitally and wants to save the physical copy, because they just know that the physical audience essentially is just going to take whatever is given to them. And that's frustrating because, yes, I'm definitely guilty of allowing some of those obnoxious practices to kind of slide by for me as well. Subservices are just all the rage here lately. Xbox has staked their entire future of their company on the Game Pass model. They're expecting Game Pass subs to get upwards of 100 million by 2027 or 2028 in some of their leaked documents. I think PlayStation isn't as sold on the subservice model, and I do think rightfully so. I do think the subservice model to gaming is going to retract, similar to what we've seen from subservices. For those of you who may be younger, cable, I think in a lot of ways failed because you'd be paying $150 and only watch 3 channels. And now everybody has a subservice. Literally, not only would games be competing with, Xbox, PlayStation, but also, people are going to be looking at their Netflix sub, Hulu, Disney, whatever it may be, Paramount Plus, Peacock. The list goes on and on and on. Of everybody's, at the end of the day, paying upwards of $100+ in just monthly sub services, and people get tired of that. And I've always been curious, the way people consume games, is it the same way they consume other types of media? I don't currently have any subservice model for gaming right now. I did have a Nintendo Switch Online sub for a little bit. I have let it lapse. I'm not just really into that yet. I'm not saying that there isn't value there. Obviously, you know, the amount of games you can play on Game Pass is ludicrous, and for somebody who's on a tight budget, heck yeah, I mean, you get access to a ton of games for a low monthly cost. However, in an all-digital future, do these pricing models stay the same, or do we start seeing some of these bigger increases in monthly costs continue to rise? I mean, right now, yes, it's justifiable, but when it's your only option, does that pricing model continue to increase? I just have a lot of red flags that I keep seeing pop up that, yeah, I mean, digital is clearly cheaper right now, but once there's a monopoly of all digital, what happens from there? I personally think it's just delusional to think that digital prices are not going to be affected when physical media goes away. A big gripe I always had is, why are digital games the same price as physical games? It made absolutely no sense, no matter how you spend it to me. Another big thing for me is, I think my own personal gaming purchasing habits would heavily slow down if it wasn't for physical gaming. Unfortunately, with scalpers, resellers, you know, the physical landscape of gaming is an abject nightmare, and especially for people who like to collect games physically for the Switch. You know, if it's a highly desired, maybe kind of niche subgenre of a JRPG, you better believe it can be a nightmare to get that game physically, so you want to get it at retail whenever you can. However, if a game's just available digitally, and it doesn't matter when or where I buy it, I might just, you know, not buy it. And if I'm not going to play it right at release, why would I buy a game digitally if it's always going to be there? Now, I know in some rare instances, and they are rare, games can be delisted. However, it's not so rare that it's unheard of. You know, I mean, here recently we talked about The Lost Child. It's now delisted. And these are just kind of things like with game preservation and whatnot. I'm still black-pilled on an all-digital future. I mean, call me an old grumpy boomer, whatever, I don't care. I'm not about it. I think there's a lot of red flags. I don't like not physically owning a game. You know, what if I don't have access to the internet? You know, my son has a Switch. You know, what if my Switch isn't the primary console and can't verify the game I have digitally, you know, through the cloud? I mean, there's just a lot of little frustrations that nobody's really kind of bothered to address, but everybody's just kind of going along with it. I mean, oh well, you know, not to leave you all with just kind of a more somber video, but I'm curious, because I've been kind of under a rock these past couple months. What's everybody's thoughts on the future of physical gaming in the landscape right now? I know I have a very heavily, you know, Nintendo Switch audience, and I think quite a few of you probably like to game physically when you can. I know not everybody's all physical who watches the channel, so please let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Let's keep it civil. You know, we're all in this together. We all love games, so I'd love to hear your comments. If you liked today's video, please consider subscribing for more Nintendo Switch and JRPG content. I want to thank everybody so much for all the support and well wishes coming back. I'm hoping to get an update video out soon, just as soon as I can figure out how to phrase everything. Anyways, I want to just thank you all again so much from the bottom of my heart, from my family to yours. Thank you. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you next time.